is destroyed by Kamala Harris's open border. It is a disgrace, Tim. And I actually think, I agree with you. I think you want to solve this problem, but I don't think that Kamala Harris does.
Senator, your time is up. Governor, you have 1 minute to respond.
Yeah, well, it is law enforcement that asked for the bill. They helped craft it. They're the ones that supported it. That's because they know we need to do this. Look, this issue of continuing to bring this up, of not dealing with it, of blaming migrants for everything. On housing, we could talk a little bit about Wall Street speculators buying up housing and making them less affordable, but it becomes a blame. Look, this bill also gives the money necessary to adjudicate. I agree, it should not take 7 years for an asylum claim to be done. This bill gets it done in 90 days. Then you start to make a difference in this, and you start to adhere to what we know, American principles. I don't talk about my faith a lot, but Matthew 25:40 talks about, to the least amongst us you do unto me. I think that's true of most Americans. They simply want order to it. This bill does it. It's funded. It's supported by the people who do it, and it lets us keep our dignity about how we treat other people.
Thank you, Governor. And just to clarify for our viewers, Springfield, Ohio does have a large number of Haitian migrants who have legal status, temporary protected status.
Well, Margaret, but
thank you, Senator. We have so much to get to.
Margaret, I think it's important because
we're going to turn out of the economy.
Margaret, the rules were that you guys did a fact check, and since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on.
You didn't even answer the question.
Called the CBP 1 app,
Fuckface.
where you can go on as an illegal migrant, apply for asylum or apply for parole, and be granted legal status at the wave of a Kamala Harris open border wand. That is not a person coming in, applying for a green card and waiting for 10 years. That is the facilitation of illegal immigration, Margaret, by
Thank
our
you,
own
Senator, for
leadership.
describing the legal process. We have so much to get to, Senator.
Those
We have
laws
so
have been on
much.
the books since 1990.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The
We want to
CBP
have
app has not been on the books.
Gentlemen, the audience can't hear you because your mics are cut. We have so much we want to get to. Thank you for explaining the legal process. Nora.
Thank you, Margaret.
This is
The
insane.
economy is a top concern for voters. Each of your campaigns has released
This is
an economic plan.
insane.
So let's
These
talk about the
reporters are
specifics.
just
Governor
utterly.
Walz, Vice President Harris unveiled a plan.
They are
that includes
incompetent.
billions in tax credits.
These are the most incompetent moderators I've ever seen in my life.
School says your proposals will increase the nation's deficit.
I don't know what you expected.
$2 trillion. How would you pay for that without ballooning the deficit? Governor, I'll give you 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. And Kamala Harris and I do believe in the middle class because that's where we come from. We both grew up in that. We understand. So those of you out there listening tonight, you're hearing a lot of stuff back and forth, and it's good. It's healthy. That's what this is supposed to
I'm
happen.
sorry, man, but like the thing that pisses me off the most is not how bad we're getting fucked by these clowns, but just how they don't even answer softball questions. These are not hardball questions. These are simply, hey, are you going to split up families at the border? Do your policies contribute to splitting up families at the border? You say you're this fucking pro-life family values guy, Christian, and you're splitting up families at the border. That's what you're doing. Both parties. That's what you're doing. It is the most inhumane thing. It's Nazis. It's Nazism. That's no exaggeration. That's not being woke. That's literally their policy.
Poverty by a third. We save money.
And yeah, that pisses me off, dude. That pisses me off.
This is off the ground.
I don't care what government it is. I don't care what reason it is. You do not ever separate kids from their fucking parents. Like that.
Promise, and I'll give you this. He kept it. He took folks from Mar-a-Lago, said, you're rich as hell, I'm going to give you a tax cut. He gave the tax cuts that predominantly went to the top class. What happened there was an $8 trillion increase in the national debt, the largest ever. Now he's proposing a 20% consumption or sales tax on everything we bring in. Everyone agrees, including businesses, it would be destabilizing it would increase inflation, and potentially lead to a recession. Look, this is simple for you. Where are we going? Kamala Harris has said to do the things she wants to do, we'll just ask the wealthiest to pay their fair share. When you do that, our system works best, more people are participating in it, and folks have the things that they need.
Senator, I want to give you a moment to respond on that. But similarly, the Wharton School has done an analysis of the Trump plan. and says it would increase the nation's deficit by $5.8 trillion. My question is the same for you. How do you pay for all that without ballooning the deficit? I'll give you 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, you're going to hear a lot from Tim Walz this evening, and you just heard in the answer a lot of what Kamala Harris proposes to do, and some of it, I'll be honest with you, it even sounds pretty good. Here's what you won't hear, is that Kamala Harris has already done it. Because she's been the vice president for 3.5 years, she had the opportunity to enact all of these great policies, and what she's actually done instead is drive the cost of food higher by 25%, drive the cost of housing higher by about 60%, open the American southern border, and make middle-class life unaffordable for a large number of Americans. If Kamala Harris has such great plans for how to address middle-class problems, then she ought to do them now. Not when asking for a promotion, but in the job the American people gave her 3.5 years ago. And the fact that she...
Are these journalists or a fucking PR campaign? This is a puff piece.
Donald Trump's economic plan is not just a plan, but it's also...
This is a puff piece for the government.
Economists attack Donald Trump's plans, and they have people...
Journalists are supposed to be anti-government, or at the very least question the sanctity of the government.
Take-home pay in a generation in this country, 1.5% inflation, and to boot, peace and security all over the world. So when people say that Donald Trump's economic plan doesn't make sense, I say look at the record. He delivered rising...
This podcast is brought to you by Bailey's Minis.
Tim admirably admits that they want to undo the Trump
They're a
tax
thrifty...
cuts. But if you look at what was so different about Donald Trump's tax cuts, even from previous
Cruise
tax cut
booze.
plans, is that a lot of those resources went to giving more take-home pay to middle-class and working-class Americans. It was passed in 2017, and you saw an American economic boom unlike we've seen in a generation in this country. That is a record that I'm proud to run on, and we're going to get back to that common sense wisdom so that you can afford to live the American dream again. I know a lot of you are struggling. I know a lot of you are worried about paying the bills. It's going to stop when Donald Trump...
I'll be your dom daddy. Yeah, it's all going to stop. You know what? Guess what? I know this is going to piss off the Trump tards here in Ohio, but fuck them. I've had my best years under Biden, financially, in every fucking way. And I know that makes me a little biased, but they did it with Reagan, they did it with Clinton, they did it with every fucking candidate. So, I guess I'm a communist now. Which I am, by the way. Fuck you.
Science can't be trusted. National security folks can't be trusted. Look, if you're going to be president, you don't have all the answers. Donald Trump believes he does. My pro tip of the day is this. If you need heart surgery, listen to the people at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, not Donald Trump. And the same thing goes with this. And I ask you out there, teachers, nurses, truck drivers, whatever, how is it fair that you're paying your taxes every year and Donald Trump hasn't paid any federal tax in the last 15 years? In the last year as president. That's what's wrong with the system. There's a way around it, and he's bragged about that. We're just asking for fairness in it, and that's all you want.
You have a minute.
Governor, you say trust the experts, but those same experts for 40 years said that if we shipped our manufacturing base off to China, we'd get cheaper goods. They lied about that. They said if we shipped our industrial base off to other countries, to Mexico and elsewhere, it would make the middle class stronger. They were wrong about that. They were wrong about the idea that if we made America less self-reliant, less productive in our own nation, that it would somehow make us better off, and they were wrong about it. And for the first time in a generation, Donald Trump had the wisdom and the courage to say to that bipartisan consensus, we're not doing it anymore. We're bringing American manufacturing back. We're unleashing American energy. We're going to make more of our own stuff. And this isn't just an economic issue. I've got 3 beautiful little kids at home, 7, 4, and 2, and I love them very much, and I hope they're in bed right now. But look, so many of the drugs, the pharmaceuticals that we put in the bodies of our children are manufactured by nations that hate us. This has to stop, and we're not going to stop it by listening to experts. We're going to stop it by listening to common sense wisdom, which is what Donald Trump governed on.
Senator, your time is up. Governor Walz, can you address that? I mean, voters say they trust Donald Trump on the economy more. Why?
If you're listening tonight and you want billionaires to get tax cuts, you heard what the numbers were.
This is so much better than the presidential debate, but I have to say, this is at least 2 somewhat competent bullshitters saying what they... I'm not, this is way better than that last train wreck. They should be president. They should be the presidential candidates, not what we have now. They should be completely flipped.
Much of what the senator said right there, I'm in agreement with him on this. I watched it happen too. I watched it to my communities, and we talked about that. But we had people undercutting the right to collectively bargain. We had right to work states made it more difficult. We had companies that were willing to ship it over, and we saw people profit. Folks that are venture capital in some cases, putting money into companies that were overseas. We're in agreement that we bring those home. The issue is Donald Trump is talking about it. Kamala Harris has a record, 250,000 more manufacturing jobs just out of the IRA.
May I respond to that?
Yes.
So appreciate that. So if you notice, what Governor Walz just did is he said, first of all, Donald Trump has to listen to the experts. And then when he acknowledged that the experts screwed up, he said, well, Donald Trump didn't do nearly as good of a job as the statistics show that he did. So what Tim Walz is doing, and I honestly, Tim, I think you got a tough job here, because you've got to play whack-a-mole. You've got to pretend that Donald Trump didn't deliver rising take-home pay, which of course he did. You've got to pretend that Donald Trump didn't deliver lower inflation, which of course he did. And then you simultaneously got to defend Kamala Harris's atrocious economic record, which has made gas, groceries, and housing unaffordable for American citizens. I was raised by a woman who would sometimes go into
It's not unaffordable.
so that you could put
It's not like unaffordable. Gas prices are the last thing anyone should get. It's the healthcare prices that are through the roof. It's the healthcare prices. They're going to focus on food and gas and the bare necessities. They're not going to focus on human rights. We're talking about human rights here. They're not interested in that. They're interested in taking away, and they're going to take away your food and gas too, someday, if we let this continue.
The vice president is often the last voice the president hears before making consequential decisions. We want to ask you about your leadership qualities. Governor Walz, you said you were in Hong Kong during the deadly Tiananmen Square protests in the spring of 1989. But Minnesota
Governor Walz, when you came in my mouth and patted my head, what did you mean by that?
Can you explain that discrepancy?
Yeah, well, and to the folks out there who didn't get at the top of this, look, I grew up in small rural Nebraska, town of 400.
Rural,
town that you
and
the street like
disqualified.
that service. I joined the National.
We should have these debates purely based on, like, every time a candidate makes the smallest error in their speech, in their mannerisms, we dump them to the alligators. Wouldn't this be such a much better country? We don't even have to raise the standards that high, but you get my point. I mean, we have every reason to burn these witches at the stake.
China. The issue for that was to try and learn. Now look, my community knows who I am. They saw where I was at. Look, I will be the first to tell you, I have poured my heart into my community. I have tried to do the best
Tim
I
Walz
can.
looks like he's trying to explain to his wife why he's cheating on her.
Those same people elected me to Congress for 12
His fidgety hands are a tell-all. I think body language-wise, J.D. Vance is much more poised. He's much more prepared for this debate. Even though I think politically he's a fascist in every possible way, and they both are. But lesser of two evils, yada yada. I'm still not voting regardless, and this again is to the advantage of the system. But whatever.
The impact it made, the difference.
It's not going to make a difference.
I learned a lot about
Your vote doesn't count anyway, in case you haven't noticed. I feel like a Xerox machine having to constantly copy myself on that point, but it's true. It's one of the most basic tenets of our country is the rigged electoral college that got us Trump in the first place. And if Trump loses, what do you think he's going to do? What do you think he's going to do? He's just going to say it's rigged again, even though it's literally rigged in your favor, bro. So yes, it was rigged, but not the way you think.
Governor, just to follow up on that, the question was, can you explain the discrepancy?
All I said on this was I got there that summer and misspoke on this, so I will just, that's what I said. So I was in Hong Kong and China during the democracy protests went in. And from that, I learned a lot of what needed to be in governance.
Thank you, Governor. Senator Vance, in 2016, you called your running mate Donald Trump unfit for the nation's highest office, and you said he could be America's Hitler. I know you've been asked many times, and you've said you regret those comments. and explained
Yeah, because he
they
hired
voted
me.
for Donald Trump in 2020.
Yeah, because now he's my buddy.
The Washington Post
And he probably paid me handsomely under the table. If we're being real, that is something Trump would do. But it might, I don't think it's Trump. It was definitely the government. But anyway.
economic populism. Here now is running.
What a weird choice, too. What an odd choice. But I will say, he comes off, policies aside, which are an utter disaster, the fact that he's a gaslighting stooge and just an empty suit to his core. I do respect the fact that he is poised, confident, and is very good at rhetoric in this debate.
About Donald Trump. I was wrong, first of all, because I believe some of the media stories that turned out to be dishonest fabrications of his record. But most importantly, Donald Trump delivered for the American people. Rising wages, rising take-home pay, an economy that worked for normal Americans, a secure southern border, a lot of things, frankly, that I didn't think he'd be able to deliver on.
The vaccine.
When you screw up, when you misspeak,
Yeah,
when you
man,
take
good
your mind,
times.
when you change your mind,
He got so much done, bro. He freed one black person. You remember that? I think he was dead. He freed Lil Wayne, bro. Yeah, bro. Good times. He legalized weed. Well, actually, he did do that. To be fair, under his administration, we did get the hemp bill, which was de facto legalization of weed. But they won't tell you that. They won't actually tout that as an accomplishment. I don't know why. You would think they would, but they don't.
So there were a lot of things on the border, on tariffs, for example, where I think that we could have done so much more if the Republican Congress and the Democrats in Congress had been a little bit better about how they govern the country. They were so obsessed with impeaching Donald Trump, they couldn't actually govern. And I want to talk about this tariff issue in particular, Margaret, because Tim just accused this of being a national sales tax. Look, the one thing, and you're probably surprised to hear me praising Joe Biden, but the one thing that Joe Biden did is he continued some of the Trump tariffs that protected American manufacturing jobs. And it's the one issue, the most pro-worker part of the Biden administration, it's the one issue where Kamala Harris has run away from Joe Biden's record. Think about this. If you're trying to employ slave laborers in China at $3 a day, you're going to do that and undercut the wages of American workers unless our country stands up for itself and says, you're not accessing our markets unless you're paying middle-class Americans a fair wage.
Senator, your time is up.
I wonder how secular talk is going to spin this one. I'm just saying, man.
After Roe versus Wade was overturned, you signed a bill.
Tim Walz is definitely the bottom in this debate. I'm just being real. I'm just being real. He's definitely the bottom. I was interested to see which one would be the bottom, but so far, definitely Tim.
Absolutely fine. Yes or no? Is that what you support? I'll give you 2 minutes.
That's not what the bill says, but look, this issue is what's on everyone's mind.
What does it say?
Donald Trump put this all into motion. He brags about how great it was that he put the judges in and overturned Roe versus Wade, 52 years of personal autonomy. And then he tells us, oh, we send it to the states. It's a beautiful thing. Amanda Zaworski would disagree with you on it's a beautiful thing. A young bride in Texas waiting for their child at 18 weeks, she has a complication, a tear in the membrane, she needs to go in. The medical care at that point needs to be decided by the doctor. And that would have been an abortion.
I agree.
But in Texas, that would have put them in legal jeopardy.
Yeah.
She went home, got sepsis, nearly dies, and now she may have difficulty having children. Or in Kentucky, Hadley Duvall, a 12-year-old child, raped and impregnated by her stepfather. Those are horrific. Now, when God asked about that, Senator Vance said, 2 wrongs don't make a right. There is no right in this. So in Minnesota, what we did was restore Roe versus Wade. We made sure that we put women in charge of their health care. But look, this is not where, if you don't know Amanda or a Hadley, you soon will. Their Project 2025 is going to have a registry of pregnancies. It's going to make it more difficult, if not impossible, to get contraception and limit access, if not eliminate access to infertility treatments. For so many of you out there listening, me included, infertility treatments are why I have a child. That's nobody else's business, but those things are being proposed. And the catch-all on this is, well, the states will decide what's right for Texas might not be right for Washington. That's not how this works. This is basic human right. We have seen maternal mortality skyrocket in Texas outpacing many other countries in the world. This is about healthcare. In Minnesota, we are ranked first in healthcare for a reason. We trust women, we trust doctors.
Senator, do you want to respond to the governor's claim? Will you create a federal...
So he's absolutely right on that, 100%. He's absolutely right on that point. Women do have the right to their own bodies, 100%. And I don't care what anybody says about that. However, the problem is Joe Biden did nothing to intervene in the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. The Democrats did nothing but bitch and moan, nothing but complain, and they backstabbed their own supporters. So now you expect them to come out and vote for you again? Hey, you got another thing coming, bro. They'll take the agency because...
in this country who proudly wants to protect the vulnerable is that my party, we've got to do so much better of a job at earning the American people's trust back on this issue where they frankly just don't trust us. And I think that's one of the things that Donald Trump and I are endeavoring to do. I want us as a Republican Party to be pro-family in the fullest sense of the word. I want us to support fertility treatments. I want us to make it easier for moms to afford to have babies. I want it to make it easier for young families to afford a home so they can afford a place to raise that family. And I think there's so much that we can do on the public policy front just to give women more options. Now, of course, Donald Trump has been very clear that on the abortion policy specifically, that we have a big country and it's diverse. And California has a different view on this than Georgia.
No, states are not people, my friend. I think you've forgotten that. States are not people. And I was consistent on this with the COVID shit as well. These parties have been completely inconsistent on that. They don't care about your human rights. They never will. They're going to take them all at once, bit by bit, until you're just sitting in a pod eating bugs.
You got to ask Donald Trump made the accusation it wasn't true about Minnesota. Well, let me tell you about this idea that they're diverse states. There's a young woman named Amber Thurman. She happened to be in Georgia, a restrictive state. Because of that, she had to travel a long distance to North Carolina to try and get her care. Amber Thurman died in that journey back and forth. The fact of the matter is, how can we as a nation say that your life...
Tim Walz should write a book called Abortion Sob Stories.
...as the right to control your own body is determined on geography. There's a very real chance had Amber Thurman lived in Minnesota, she would be alive today. That's why the restoration of Roe versus Wade. When you listen to Vice President Harris talk about this...
This nigga act like this nigga act like niggas can't just buy a bus ticket or something. At the very least, if you don't have a car and you want an abortion, or just buy a plane ticket, dude, it's not that complicated. Now, do I think that should be the policy? Fuck no, no. I think abortion should be legal across the board. But just enough with the semantics, the hysteria, the drama. Either we are pro-freedom as a country, or we're fucking not. And I think that's been decided already by the people who vote for these assholes. The people who still vote, by the way, are under half. Under half. So that is actually positive. That is a good thing. All this shit about trust us. No. No, I'm not going to trust you. Ever. Ever. You could literally say, we're going to suck your cock. And I still wouldn't do it. J.D. Vance could say, I'm going to send a staff full of... I'm going to send a bunch of concubines to your house. They are your personal slaves for the rest of your life to do with as you please. It would be like the real-world version of the Muslim afterlife. And I'd still be like, nah, bro. I'd be like, oh, thanks, bro, but nah. I'm not voting for you. Still.
And we have got to earn people's trust back. And that's why Donald Trump...
Buy me! Buy me! Pinwheel! Buy me! Nice beard.
I'm going to respond on the pro-abortion piece of that. No, we're not. We're pro-women. We're pro-freedom to make your own choice. We know what the implications are to not be that. Women having miscarriages, women not getting the care, physicians feeling like they may be prosecuted for providing that care. And as far as making sure that we're educating our children and giving them options, Minnesota's a state with one of the lowest teen pregnancy rates. We understand that too. We know that the options need to be available, and we make that true. We also make it, we're a top 3 state for the best place to raise children. But these two things, to try and say that we're pro-children, but we don't like this, or you guys are pro-abortion, that's not the case at all. We are pro-freedoms for women to make their choices, and we're going, and Kamala Harris is making the case, to make options for children more affordable, a $6,000 child tax credit, but we're not going to base that on the backs of making someone like Amber Thurman drive 600 miles to try and get health care.
Senator?
May I respond to that? First of all, Governor, I agree with you. Amber Thurman should still be alive, and there are a lot of people who should still be alive, and I certainly wish that she was. And maybe you're free to disagree with me on this and explain this to me, but as I read the Minnesota law that you signed into law, the statute that you signed into law, it says that a doctor who presides over an abortion where the baby survives, the doctor is under no obligation to provide life-saving care to a baby who survives a botched late-term abortion. That is, I think, whether you're pro-choice or pro-abortion, that is fundamentally barbaric, and that's why
How is that a law? That can't be a real law.
to perform
And if it is, who gives a shit? Who gives a shit about the law, man? You guys don't.
their freedom of conscience. We can be a big and diverse country where we respect people's freedom of conscience and make the country more pro-baby and pro-family. But please.
Yes, Governor, please respond.
Look, this is one where there's always
You're the
something
fucking baby. Shut up.
position. These are women's decisions to make about their healthcare decisions, and the physicians who know best when they need to do this.
Idiot.
Trying to distort the way a law is written to try and make a point, that's not it at all.
What was I wrong
This
about,
was-
Governor? Please tell me, what was I wrong
That is
about?
not the way the law is written. Look, I've given
But
this,
how?
I've given this advice on a lot of things, that getting involved, getting engaged, that's been misread, and it was fact-checked at the last debate. But the point on this is there's a continuation of these guys to try and tell women or to get involved. I use this line on this, just mind your own business on this. Things work best when Roe versus Wade was
Tim
in
needs
place.
to fucking bring the fire, man. Tim needs a fucking shot of
That doesn't
adrenaline.
preclude us from increasing funding for children. It doesn't increase us from making sure that once that child's born, like in Minnesota, they get meals, they get early childhood education, they get health care. So
Policy, plus 100 for Tim. Charisma, negative 1,000 for Tim.
she's proposing all those things to make life easier for families.
I asked a specific question.
And people
Governor,
don't
you
give,
gave me a
and
slogan
the
as
voters
well.
don't give a fuck about policy. They never have. They never will. Ironically, it's the people who don't vote for these clowns who are going, who actually vote for local policy. You know, I mean, this is just a joke.
Just a moment.
By the way, fuck Ohio. It's pretty, but fuck it. I don't like it. Blue states are better.
The House will be in order.
This year, C-SPAN celebrates 45 years of covering Congress like no other. Since 1979, we've been your primary source for Capitol Hill, providing balanced, unfiltered coverage of government, taking you to where the policy is debated and decided, all with the support of America's cable companies. C-SPAN, 45 years and counting, powered by cable.
Friday nights, one C-SPAN's 2024 campaign trail, a weekly discussion on how the presidential, Senate, and House campaigns have progressed in the past week. Two reporters joining me to talk about
I do respect the fact that he is poised, confident,
and to take a look at the week ahead. Watch
and
C-SPAN's
is very good at
2024
rhetoric in this
campaign
debate.
trail. Friday nights at 7 Eastern on C-SPAN, online at cspan.org, or download the podcast on the C-SPAN Now or free mobile app, or wherever you get your podcasts. C-SPAN, your unfiltered view of politics.
Attention middle and high school students, it's time to make your voice heard. C-SPAN Student Cam Documentary Contest 2025 this year. This is your chance to create a documentary that can inspire change, raise awareness, and make an impact. Your documentary should answer this year's question.
By the way,
They're not going to focus on human
Is
rights.
most important to you or
We're talking about human rights.
I'm
here.
watching my own live stream.
They're interested in taking away.
Student Cam
Wild times, bro. I look good. I look good today.
$1,000 in
Lighting could be better. Sound quality could be improved. But I said, hey, This is the fucking presidential debates. What do you want from me?
The deadline is January 20,
Seriously though,
2025.
yeah, that is coming up soon. I mean, shit, man. Let a lady get ready, you know what I'm saying? Before you fuck me,
Start your day with Washington,
Mr. Government.
the nation's capital, the only daily nationally
Tim Walz fucking sucks, though.
the latest issue.
He fucking sucks. I think, I mean, Minnesota, I would love to, I've been to Minnesota once. I've been to Minneapolis. I went to Minneapolis and I did a set there once, and I was thoroughly unimpressed with Minneapolis as a city. Its skyline is very flat and dull and unimpressive. Not the nicest people there. I could tell it was just a little dusty. It seemed like there was a lot of crime, a lot of poverty going on. But I did get to see the George Floyd Memorial. So that was pretty cool. That was cool. They literally just took over a whole section of the city and dedicated it to Brother Floyd, our Lord and Savior. So, you know, it's not all bad. I'm kidding. I'm still working on that George Floyd script, by the way. By the way, if I can squeeze that bit into my upcoming comedy special, that would be a test of political incorrectness for sure. For sure. Like, because it's like joking about 9/11. I don't want to wait too long before everybody starts joking about 9/11. You know what I mean? I feel like it's better to just get the George Floyd jokes out of the way, shock people who still give a fuck about George Floyd. Black people. Not true. Actually, white people who suck off black people. Dude, black people don't give a fuck. Black people love when I'm racist, for the most part. I mean, there's still that couple of black people who, if the wrong ones show up to my show, they might get all rowdy and leave. I don't know. Or I might get shot. Who knows? That's always a possibility. Go down like a gangster, you know? Go down like a G. What was I saying? Who gives a fuck? By the way, horrible choice of fashion. My friend Rocco on Twitter pointed this out. He's like, these women are dressed terribly for the background, just horrible. This garish, nightmarish background of red and blue. I never liked anything American, by the way. I never liked the flag. I never liked the anthem. I never liked the culture. I just don't like America. I like the landscape. I like the food is pretty good, even though it's fake. Our movies are really fun. They used to be. I'm sorry, not anymore, but they used to be good. But, you know, our policies suck. We don't have a culture. We're fucked. I'm moving to Europe. It's done. I'm like those celebrities who said they were going to move to Europe if Donald Trump wins, except I was going to do it anyway. It's not because of Donald Trump, but I'm still going to do it. And I'm going to say it was because of Donald Trump, because fuck Donald Trump. I'm pro-Kamala. And the reason I'm pro-Kamala is because I want women to finally be held accountable for their own power. That's what I want. And that's what women think they want. They don't want that, though. So if Kamala wins, I think it would be the greatest thing for this country. I truly do. It would suck for a while, but I still think it would be a necessary evil so that women come back to reality and say, hey, you were right about everything. We don't actually want this. Hopefully.
Of the gun violence in this country is committed with illegally obtained firearms. And while we're on that topic, we know that thanks to Kamala Harris's open border, we've seen a massive influx in the number of illegal guns run by the Mexican drug cartel. So that number...
Are you fucking kidding me?
Country is higher.
You're anti-gun now?
Years ago.
Trump tards, you're gonna let him get away with that? I feel like fucking Robert De Niro in Goodfellas. You gonna let him get away with that? You gonna let him get away with that? Hey! What is the world coming to? And then the Republicans just pop out with their guns and start shooting at J.D. Vance. I wish it was that country, bro. I wish boomers had some fucking balls. But they don't. They're completely bought and paid for by Israel. They suck. They all suck. They're all gonna... They're gonna die alone and divorced. Most of them are fucking divorced. Shit. Even the rich ones, even Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, all these billionaire cocksuckers, they can't keep a wife to save their life. What chance do you think you have?
Center playing volleyball. Those things don't leave you. As a member of Congress, I sat in my office surrounded by dozens of the Sandy Hook parents, and they were looking at my 7-year-old picture on the wall. Their 7-year-old were dead, and they were asking us to do something. And look, I'm a hunter. I own firearms. The vice president is. We understand that the Second Amendment is there, but our first responsibility is to our kids to figure this out. In Minnesota, we've enacted enhanced red flag laws, enhanced background checks, and we can start to get data. But here's the problem. If we really want to solve this, we've got folks that won't allow research to be even done on gun violence. And this idea that we should just live with it, and I here's what I do think, that this is a good start to the conversation. I 100% believe that Senator Vance hates it when these kids, it's abhorrent and it breaks your heart. I agree with that. But that's not far enough.
I agree. I hate JD Vance.
I spent
And
time in Finland.
both their answers on this issue are going to suck, by the way. School shootings, you know what the solution is? You don't ban guns, you ban schools. That's what you do. JD Vance is not going to say that because that's too radical for even his side. Because they want to indoctrinate your children too. They want to indoctrinate your children as well. Don't get it twisted, man. But yeah, all this fucking anti-gun shit from both sides is... It's just another example. Like I said, this is a theme. They don't care about your fucking rights. Whether it's abortion, whether it's whether or not you have to take a genetic experimental vaccine, or whether it's the basic, I get to say what I want and I get to shoot who I want. Because let's face it, that is a fucking right. You have no right to life. People have the right to take your life. That's what rights are. They go against God. Freedom goes against God, for the most part. You have all the cool shit, basically. Like the freedom to be gay. That's not what God wants, right? Or the freedom to cheat on your wife. It's all the same shit. It's not about politics. It's all the same shit. Having a gun is basically saying, hey, I have the right to fucking kill you if I deem a necessary reason. And sometimes that reason is necessary. Most of the time it isn't. Guess what, folks? Most of the time, 99% of the time, killing another human being is completely fucking unjustified. But JD Vance, all he cares about is a fucking baby that's not even his, and that he has no intention of taking care of.
Weapons ban, but it's only later in your political career did you change your position. Why?
Yeah, I sat in that office with those Sandy Hook parents. I've become friends with school shooters. I've seen it. Look, the NRA, I was an NRA guy for a long time. They used to teach gun safety. I'm of an age where my shotgun was in my car so I could pheasant hunt after football practice. That's not where we live today. And several things I want to mention on this is, talking about cities and where it's at.
Pope Tyrone in the chat, like, bro, fix your posture.
Where the
what the fuck? What's wrong with?
Happen in Minnesota
what's wrong with my posture? What is wrong with my posture? Fuck you.
But I want to be very careful. This idea of stigmatizing mental health, just because you have a mental health issue, doesn't mean you're violent. And I think what we end up doing is we start looking for a scapegoat. Sometimes it just is the guns. It's just the guns. And there are things that you can do about it.
Yeah, bro.
But I do think
the fucking gun came up to my house last night, tapped on my window, threatened my entire family. It was the guns, bro. It's like, it's the guns versus it's the immigrants. Like, it's just, this is like schizophrenia, the debate. This debate is literal schizophrenia on display for all to see. And then they're gonna gaslight you. Oh, this poor bitch, man. This poor woman is tired. She needs some pounding.
Home buyers and a $10,000 tax credit. They also promise to build 3 million new homes. Where are you building these homes, and won't handing out that kind of money just drive up prices higher?
No, it's not handing out. First, let me say this issue of housing, and I think those of you listening on this, the problem we've had is that we've got a lot of folks that see housing as another commodity. It can be bought up, it can be shifted, it can be moved around. Those are not folks living in those houses. Those of you listening tonight, that house is a big deal. I bought and owned one house in my life. My mom still lives in the house where I was. And when I think of a house, I'm thinking of Christmas services after midnight mass where you go with your family. We need to make it more affordable. And one of the things, as I said, this program that the Vice President is pushing forward and bringing a new way of approaching this is something we're doing in Minnesota from that lead. We in the state invested in making sure our housing was the biggest investment that we'd ever made in housing. It starts to make it easier. We cut some of the red tape. Local folks, look, we can't do it at the federal level, but local folks make it easier to build those homes. And then that down payment assistance. I can tell all of you out there, certainly for me, using the GI Bill was one thing, but a veteran's home loan, the big thing about a veteran's home loan is you don't have to pay the down payment. Those are things that make it there. Now look, you're gonna pay it back, and you're going to pay your mortgage. Those are things that we know in the long run, the appreciated value, the generational wealth that's created from it. And I will give Minneapolis an example. Minneapolis is the one city where we've seen the lowest inflation rates. We've seen a 12% increase in stock because we've put some of these things in, and we're implementing a state program to make sure we give some of that down payment assistance. We get it back from people because here's what we know. People with stable housing end up with stable jobs. People with stable housing have their kids able to get to school. All of those things in the long run end up saving our money. And that's the thing that I think we should be able to find some common ground in, but we can't blame immigrants for the old.
Do you notice how now we're arguing about housing as if it's like, what are we talking about here? You're going to get involved in my home now? Oh, hi, Alexa. Hi, Alexa. Is that what we're doing here?
As far as your campaign's position, the promise is to seize federal lands to build homes, remove regulation, provide tax breaks, and cut back on immigration, which you say pushes up prices. Where are you going to build all the new homes you're promising, and what part of any of this plan will provide immediate relief? You have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, Tim just said something that I agree with. We don't want to blame immigrants for higher housing prices, but we do want to blame Kamala Harris for letting in millions of...
Skip.
Scan the QR code to download
Are we
it for
done?
free today, or visit our website, cspan.org/cspan now.
Are we done? I don't even want to hear the fucking... I don't want to hear them. I don't want to hear them. One more thing about... And I think we skipped the part about Israel. So that's good. Like, don't get me started on that. Don't even get me started.
Vice presidential debate.
I really couldn't give a shit, to be honest. People act like I'm like anti-Semitic just to be anti-Semitic. It's like, no, I really don't give a fuck.
Welcome back to the CBS News.
I fuck Jewish bitches. It's fine. Like, I don't care. They can go on and on about erectile dysfunction or whatever their fucking weird religion is. I don't even know.
Thank you, Senator Vance. Thank you to CBS News. And most importantly, thank you to all of you. If you're still up and the folks who miss Dancing with Our Stars, I appreciate it. But look, the support of the democracy matters. It matters that you're here. And I'm as surprised as anybody of this coalition that Kamala Harris has built. From Bernie Sanders to Dick Cheney to Taylor Swift. And a whole bunch of folks in between there. And they don't all agree.
We're going to hell, aren't we?
Truly optimistic people. They believe in a positive
I'm sorry,
future
God.
in this
I'm
country.
sorry.
And
I
one
am
where
sorry
politics
that
can
you
be
have to
better
witness
than
this
it is.
embarrassment of a country. I am truly sorry. But what can I do? I'm just a simple man. I'm just a fucking storyteller. What am I gonna do?
Not the freedom of government to be in your bedroom, but the freedom for you to make choices about yourself. Now look, we all know who Donald Trump is. He's told us, and as Maya Angelou said, believe him when he told you that. His first inaugural address talked about American carnage. And then he spent 4 years trying to maybe do that. Senator Vance tonight made it clear he will stand with Donald Trump's agenda.
God, these guys are so fucking boring. But you know what? I almost like that. I almost respect that if they're like, because you've got they should be running for president, is my point. I reiterate, they should be running for president. Now, and the vice presidents, like, why are they at the kids' table?
Kamala Harris is bringing us a new way forward. She's bringing us a politics of joy. She's bringing real solutions for the middle class, and she's centering you at the heart of that.
Yeah!
All the while asking everyone, join this movement, make your voices heard. Let's look for a new day where everybody gets that opportunity and everybody gets a chance to thrive. I humbly ask for your vote on November 5th for Kamala Harris.
Governor Walz.
Thanks,
thank you.
gay bestie.
Senator Vance, your closing statement.
Well, I want to thank
That's
Governor
what Tim
Walz,
Walz is.
you folks at CBS, and of course the American people for tuning
And then
in.
J.D. Vance is just a fucking incel.
And I remember
Like,
when I was
you know,
raised by
those
my
are two
grandmother,
choices. Them's
that
your
she would
choices,
turn
folks.
on the heat some nights because
You get the bread or the pudding.
and because
Which
money
one you
was
want?
very
Take your
tight.
pick.
And I believe, as a person who wants to be your next vice president, that we are a rich and prosperous enough country where every American, whether they're rich or poor, ought to be able to turn on their heat in the middle of a cold winter night. That's gotten more difficult thanks to Kamala Harris's energy policies. I believe that whether you're rich or poor, you ought to be able to afford a nice meal for your family. That's gotten harder because of Kamala
This guy's
Harris's
eyes are
policies.
disturbing.
I believe that whether you're rich
His whole demeanor is disturbing.
buy a house. You ought to be able to live in safe neighborhoods. You ought to not have your communities flooded with fentanyl, and that too has gotten harder with Kamala because of Kamala Harris's policies. Now, I've been in politics long enough to do what Kamala Harris does when she stands before the American people and
Not
says,
answer the question that you're presented by the reporter. We getting warmer, JD? By the way, it's not your real fucking name. Just saying. I think it's fine, you know.
policies have made
Look at me, but I'm just saying.
Now, I believe that we have the most beautiful country in the world. I meet people on the campaign trail who can't afford food, but have the grace and generosity to ask me how I'm doing and to tell me they're praying for my family. What that has taught me is that we have the greatest country, the most beautiful country, the most incredible people anywhere in the world. But they're not going to be able to achieve their full dreams with the broken leadership that we have in Washington. They're not going to be able
Nigga, I literally achieved my dream under Biden, so.
for the last
And it wasn't because of Biden. And my point is, this guy is full of shit. He's wrong.
and did it well.
If you're waiting for your candidate to get in before you achieve your dream, you are a lackluster human being. There's no two ways about it.
Vance, and thank you both for participating in the only vice presidential debate of this election cycle. I'm Margaret Brennan.
And I'm Nora O'Donnell, and a reminder, there are just 35 days until Election Day. Please get out and vote, and for all of us here at CBS News,
should-
thank you.
They should double date, like, for real. JD's like, yo, I'll take the pink, you take the blue. What do you think? Are they gonna, yeah. Well, I will say that was a marked improvement on what we've seen before, but it is the only vice presidential debate, which is really telling, like, nobody cares about policy anymore, you know? I feel like, but I feel like I'm nostalgic for a period in American history for which I was not even present. I'm not saying it was like good then. What I'm saying is it's shitty now. That's the thing to focus on. That's the important thing. That's the thing you want to take away from this broadcast. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. There will be more content on the way very soon. I hope to see you again very soon. Salute. Hand on the heart. Hail Trump! Hail Trump! Hail Israel!